My name is Isabella. It took me a long time to tell this story. Accepting what happened, digesting it, and then pretending like everything was fine. It wasn't easy. But now, it's time to speak up. Because I want people to know. I want them to know what betrayal feels like. What it's like to be shattered by the two people you trusted most. And most of all, I want them to understand how powerful silence can be. Daniel and I met when we were both 28. I had just started working at a small design studio downtown, and he came in one day as a client. He was charming, confident, and had this way of making everyone in the room feel like they mattered. At first, I thought it was just business. But then he kept coming back. First for minor revisions, then for advice, and finally, just to see me. I won't lie, he swept me off my feet. He'd show up with coffee in the mornings, bring me little notes, ask how my day was. It felt intentional. Like he'd chosen me out of everyone. And honestly, that's exactly what I'd been waiting for. After years of feeling invisible, someone finally saw me. Not just for my work or my appearance, but for me. Our relationship moved fast. Within 6 months, we were living together. A year later, we got married in a quiet ceremony on the coast. No huge party, no hundreds of guests, just us, the ocean breeze, and the belief that we'd found something rare. For a long time, I really thought we had. Looking back now, I realize the signs were always there, I just didn't want to see them. There were late-night calls he claimed were work emergencies. Sudden trips out of town that came up without warning. The way he started guarding his phone like it held national secrets. He used to leave it on the kitchen counter while we cooked or watched movies. Then suddenly, it was always face down or in his pocket. I told myself it was just stress. That his new position at the firm was demanding more of him. I even defended him when friends raised an eyebrow or made subtle comments. You know how intense his job is, I'd say with a forced laugh. But deep down, a voice kept whispering, something's not right. It wasn't just the phone. It was the emotional distance. The way he'd stopped asking how my day was, stopped noticing when I looked tired or sad. We'd sit on the same couch, but it felt like miles between us. I'd reach out physically, emotionally, but it was like hugging a shadow. Still, I held on. I thought relationships had ups and downs, that love meant sticking it out. I didn't want to be the one who gave up. So I stayed quiet. And I kept pretending everything was fine. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had just come back from a meeting with a client that ran longer than expected. I walked into our apartment expecting silence, maybe the soft hum of the dishwasher or the ticking of the clock. But what I got was laughter. Female laughter. From our bedroom. My heart dropped. At first, I thought I was imagining it. That maybe the TV was on. But no. The voices were real. Muffled, intimate. And one of them was his. I stood there, frozen. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Every instinct in my body screamed for me to turn around and leave. But I walked forward. Slowly. Quietly. Like I wasn't even in my own body. When I pushed the door open, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there. Watching the man I had loved for 10 years tangled in sheets with someone I had never seen before. They both froze. He tried to speak, some pathetic excuse or explanation, but I didn't hear a word. My ears were ringing. Everything was in slow motion. I walked out without a word. But inside, I was shattered. I didn't go home for 3 days. I stayed at a friend's place, curled up on her couch, barely eating, barely sleeping. My mind replayed that scene over and over again like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. How long had it been going on? Who was she? Why didn't I see the signs? And the worst question of all, why wasn't I enough? On the fourth day, I finally returned. The apartment was spotless, as if nothing had happened. He had left a note on the kitchen counter, "We need to talk." I didn't call. I didn't reply. I didn't care what he had to say. He made his choice. I packed my things methodically, like a machine. 10 years of my life, reduced to a few boxes and suitcases. As I pulled the last suitcase out the door, I looked back one final time. The home we built, the dreams we shared, they didn't belong to me anymore. The real pain didn't come from losing Daniel. It came from losing Vanessa. My best friend. My sister in everything but blood. We had met in college and been inseparable ever since. She knew everything about me, my childhood, my fears, my dreams. She was there when I met Daniel, the night he first asked me out, the day he proposed. She was even my maid of honor. So? How could she? For weeks, I searched for a reason. A clue. Something to help me understand. And then, I got it. One night, while scrolling through old messages, I noticed a few conversations between them that seemed too familiar. A joke I didn't remember sharing. A location I never visited. My heart dropped. I started digging. Old group photos, comments. Accidental likes on each other's posts. It all came together like a puzzle I never wanted to finish. They had been seeing each other behind my back. Not for weeks, for months. Maybe even longer. I felt sick. How do you grieve someone who's still alive? How do you mourn the death of trust? I didn't cry that night. I just sat in the dark, stunned by the sheer audacity of it all. Because betrayal like that, it burns. And it brands you forever. I knew I couldn't confront them. Not yet. They had stolen something sacred from me, trust, time, and dignity. But they wouldn't steal my peace. No. I was going to take that back, on my own terms. So, I smiled. I smiled at Vanessa when we bumped into each other at the store. I smiled when Daniel texted asking to meet just to talk. And I smiled when I told them both I was doing okay and just needed space. They believed me. They had no idea I knew. Behind the scenes, I started gathering everything. Screenshots, messages, dates, inconsistencies in their stories. I wasn't going to publish it or shame them, this wasn't about drama. This was about justice. About closure. I even met with a therapist, not because I was broken, but because I refused to be. And that's when it happened. One evening, I got a message from Vanessa. She said she missed me. That she wanted to talk woman to woman. I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. She looked nervous. She talked a lot. Said it just happened. That she never meant to hurt me. That Daniel was the one who pursued her. I listened quietly. When she was done, I slid a small envelope across the table. Inside were printed copies of their messages. The exact dates. Proof. Her face drained of color. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, left some cash for my tea, and walked away. That was my closure. After that meeting with Vanessa, I felt lighter. Not happy. Not healed. But lighter. Like I had set something down I'd been carrying for far too long. But Daniel? He wasn't going to get off so easy. He still thought I was clueless. He still sent me messages, the usual guilt-laced, "hope you're okay," texts. Once, he even wrote, "I know I messed up, but what we had was real." Real? The audacity. But I didn't block him. Not yet. Because I had one last move to make. Daniel had a reputation, not just with women, but professionally. He ran a small design firm, very image-conscious, very clean. His clients were High-end, his team was small, and his social media presence was polished. He also had a weakness for mixing personal affairs with business. And I had receipts. Over the months, I quietly collected screenshots of inappropriate messages he'd sent, not just to Vanessa, but to another woman in his office. The woman? Jessica, a junior designer. She'd reached out to me through a mutual friend after the breakup. Said she was tired of pretending. We met. We talked. And together, we planned. Jessica handed in her resignation with a detailed HR report, backed by my screenshots. A week later, I mailed anonymous packages to 2 of his biggest clients, each one containing quotes from Daniel's inappropriate work messages and the HR complaint file. He called me that night. Panicked. Angry. Shouting. "Did you do this to me?" I was calm. I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, Daniel. Maybe you should treat people better." Then I hung up. And I blocked him. Forever. After I blocked Daniel, something inside me finally exhaled. For the first time in what felt like forever, my phone wasn't a source of anxiety. I didn't wait for his name to flash across the screen. I didn't dread what kind of emotional trap he might try next. He was gone. And I had made sure of it. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding. Not just my routine, but myself. I started going for long walks again, the kind where you don't think about where you're going. I took up painting. Not because I was good at it, but because it made the silence feel full instead of empty. I went back to therapy. I reconnected with old friends I had pushed away during the relationship. One night, I even laughed so hard I cried. It felt foreign. But it felt good. Daniel tried to resurface once. From a new number. He sent a long, pathetic message that started with, "I know you probably hate me," and ended with, "I'll always love you." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. He was a closed chapter. No, he was a burned book. One I would never reread. And Vanessa? She moved on. I heard she left the country. A part of me hopes she's okay. Another part of me doesn't care. Because this story was never about them. It was about me. Surviving what was meant to break me. Reclaiming the parts of myself that got buried under their lies. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was the author now. And I had just started writing a brand new chapter. Looking back, I sometimes wonder what I could have done differently. Should I have seen the signs earlier? Should I have questioned the little lies, the quiet shifts in his voice, the way Vanessa always seemed just a little too interested in our relationship? But then I remind myself, none of this was my fault. Loving someone isn't a mistake. Trusting the people you consider family, that's not a weakness. The only mistake I ever made was not trusting myself sooner. It took betrayal to wake me up. It took heartbreak to remind me of who I am. And now, I see everything clearly. They tried to bury me in lies. But I used every ounce of pain to build something stronger. My story isn't tragic. It's powerful. Because I got back up. Because I chose silence over screaming, peace over revenge, healing over hate. And if you've ever been in my place, if someone ever shattered your world and walked away smiling, know this, you are not weak. You are not broken, you are rising. This is not the end. It's the beginning of everything you're meant to become. My name is Isabella. I was betrayed, I was broken. But now, I am free.